Good morning. On a Thursday, I lift my coffee cup to you. In fact, I will lift my coffee cup and my Whataburger iced tea cup. I lift both to you. That's just how much I lift to you. Thank you very much. Double check this. Five to 1 Red Sox over the Astros last night. Not happy about that outcome. Red Sox are not that good this year. Should not have dropped 2 to the Red Sox. John Williams, you were the first person in. Welcome in, John. Good morning. What is up? Gotta get some keys out of my pocket. I don't like my keys jangling in my pockets when I'm doing a little radio show. Woo! Woo! 2 people in here now. John Williams and a mystery guest. Welcome in, mystery guest. Oh, the mystery guest is Steve DiRocco, the original rock, the original Italian stallion. You can call him Classic Rock. What is up, Rocket Man? Once again, I am up for a 2 o'clock pool session today. That's my plan. Woo! Woo!
Some other car insurance companies are increasing their rates in your state. But don't worry, your bill's gone up. Switch to State Farm for surprisingly great rates. Like your good neighbor, State Farm is there. Call or visit statefarm.com for a quote today.
Woo! Haas Holding, what is up? Thank you, Haas. Appreciate that, sir. Congratulations once again, Haas, over the weekend. You are an animal. You are a phenom. You are a force. You just keep winning, man. Anthony Del Toro. Good morning, Anthony. Let's see, 6 people in here. And I know it's Anthony, Don, Steve DiRocco, and John. So there's 2 of you. I don't know your names, but good morning anyway. Oh, I know another one, Sam Tobias. What is up, Sam? Oh, praise Tom Landry. I know, that sucked, Anthony. 5-1 loss to the Red Sox. They dropped 2 in that series at Fenway. Boston is not that good this year. That should not be happening. Oh, well. Hopefully, they got a 4-game series against the Rangers beginning tonight. Just make sure that's not a day game. So hopefully they will get well soon. I mean, I like the Rangers. They're my second favorite team, but I'm an Astros fan, so hopefully they sweep the Texas Rangers. Take a look. When is that game, man? Here we come. That is a night game, 7:10. Framber Valdez on the mound for the Astros tonight. Here we come. Lucinda Sullivan, good morning. Wow, Haas Holding at Woodlawn this weekend. That would be cool to go to. Ramon Rodriguez Martinez, welcome in. Got a mute for our evil Facebook overlords.
Now, Chris Duel.
It is a Thursday. That means it's a throwback Thursday, but it's also a taco Thursday. Just because Tuesday is Taco Tuesday doesn't mean you can throw back some tacos today. It should be a throwback taco Thursday. I'll throw back some tacos. Welcome in. Let Jim Morrison and the Doors finish up. Jim Morrison, one of the key members of the 27 Club that was founded by Robert Johnson many, many years ago. Lots going on in the world of sports. Astros lose their finale at Fenway last night, 5-1. I was just talking about that on the live video feed. Astros lost 2 at Fenway over that series. Red Sox are not that good, so not happy about that. And Shannon Salty Sweeney cannot be happy about her Dallas Mavericks performance in Game 1 last night at the Chase Center, where the Golden State Warriors win big, 112-87. They take a 1-0 lead in the Western Conference Finals as photographs of Luka Doncic day drinking.
No.
With Boban Marjanovic.
No.
Was Luka drunk last night? Was it the alcohol that led to the Mavericks' demise, Shannon?
That picture has been debunked. It is old. It was just circulating because of the circumstances in which were not great for the Mavericks last night. I'll go ahead and say it again. My pick was Warriors in 5. But that doesn't mean I didn't want to see my team show up and show out a little bit. This game was like they got some humility served to them after that Game 7 against the Suns. So yeah, I'm not happy with the way they played. I wish they would have shown up a little bit better. Luka, I know we want the folks around him to step up a little bit, but Luka scoring 20 isn't going to do it for you for a Mavs victory. I mean, that game, I was able to watch the first half, and it started off obviously Golden State hitting a 3 right off the jump, so you knew what kind of game it was going to be. But they sort of hung in there until they kind of pulled away there at the end of the second quarter. And it wasn't the best showing for the Mavericks. Hopefully they'll right some wrongs here, make some adjustments. Jason Kidd has been here before as a player. Now he's here as a coach. Hopefully he can instill some wisdom on this team.
Now, you sounded almost, I don't want to say gleeful, but you really quickly jumped in there with, hey, I want to remind you, I picked Golden State in 5.
I like being right.
You were like, that was your lead there on your summation of that ball game. It's like, yeah, I picked Golden State in 5. I told you they'd get spanked.
Well, I feel like they would win at home, right? Like,
yes.
To get that done, Golden State's going to have to win every game at home. So.
Wow. So according to Shannon, we made predictions yesterday. And oh, by the way, speaking of predictions, our PGA Championship draft with Andy Everett coming up a little bit later in the show. But to recap yesterday's predictions in this series, Shannon had Warriors in 5, and she's a Mavericks fan. Jeremy KOLOK had Warriors in 7, and I was an idiot. I have Dallas in 6. But I'm sticking to it with that day drinking Luka Doncic that Shannon says has been debunked. Now, Jeremy, speaking of Luka and Shannon, I totally agree with what she just said. 20 out of Luka ain't going to do it. He's got to be your man. He's got to get you probably 35 plus. He was looking at his line last night. Luka Doncic, 6 of 18 from the field. That's like 33%, way under 50%. Luka, 3 of 10 from three-point country. Nothing to write home about. He did have 7 rebounds, 4 assists. He had a steal. But I'm looking at the plus minus, Jeremy, a minus 30 in the plus minus. That is the worst plus minus of the night for any Maverick and certainly for any Golden State Warrior. So when Luka was on the floor for his 35 minutes, the Warriors outscored the Mavericks by 30 points. What do you think the problem was, Jeremy? Do you think they were just hounding and harassing Luka and just making him perform badly last night?
Well, I'm glad you brought that up because I'm a huge fan of the plus minus, Chris and Shannon. I love looking at that. I think it tells a great story of the game a lot of the time. But Chris, like you said, his point total is not going to do it. This is the first time hearing about that beer picture being debunked, Shannon. So thank you for providing me with the proper insight this morning, because that was not a good look, was it? That was a few hours before game time, and he had a tall, a big glass there, a really big glass there. The one thing I thought about, Chris, and we know this from the Spurs runs, the playoffs are super.
Yes.
It's so difficult to sustain your success, I think, because teams make adjustments
Yes.
constantly. I mean, it's a 4 to 7 game series, and it's so hard for individual players too. And that's why I like to really admire and be a basketball fan, regardless of team, of players that showcase that they can sustain that success in the playoffs, and that they can take over a game no matter what adjustments you throw at them. So obviously, a long series ahead here. Luka Doncic, he has plenty of time to prove himself after that first game. But what a turnaround from scoring the same amount of points as the Phoenix Suns in the first half to this game. But a lot of basketball to be played.
Now, Shannon, any chance, you brought this up, I think, yesterday, they went 7 with the Suns, as Jeremy just mentioned. So, and a very quick turnaround to game number 1 on the road. So Dallas had to travel from Phoenix to San Francisco. Then, Luka guzzling all that beer with Boban before the game that we have photographic evidence of. Do you think fatigue was a factor for Luka Doncic and the rest of these Mavericks last night?
I would think a little bit, sure, but if you're having fatigue in game 1 of this series, it's not going to go over well for you the rest of the way. Like we said, they've to even win the series, they've got to get a win in Golden State. So I think game 2 is really going to be the tail here, as far as I think a lot of people deciding whether or not the Mavericks stand a chance in the series. Of course, they did go down 2-0 to the Suns, and they were able to right that ship. So I guess anything could happen, but I just don't see it for my Mavericks.
Going to be very, very interesting. And again, you're a Mavericks fan, and you're kind of pessimistic about their chances. Part of this, and I don't know what got into me on the show yesterday, picking the Mavericks to win this series. But again, I mean, part of it, I just think it's so valuable, the championship pedigree that the key players and the coach Steve Kerr of the Golden State Warriors have. So many championships. They've gone deep into the playoffs so many times and won it all. Steph Curry, Draymond Green, Klay Thompson, and leading the way, Steve Kerr. I mean, that anybody who knows, what Jeremy just described, and it's so true, the playoffs are all about adjustments. And so many times we've seen adjustments from game 1 to game 2. And as you described, Shannon, in that Phoenix series, from game 2 to game 3 and beyond, as if you think about it, with Phoenix up 2-0 in that series to the Mavericks in the previous round, Mavericks went on and won, 4 of the next 5 games. It wound up being 4-3 Mavericks. So even when you're down 0-2 and the odds are stacked against you, Mavericks still found a way. But I think Golden State, I'm getting a sinking feeling. I'm tired of the Golden State Warriors. I was tired of them years ago. I was tired of them when Zaza Pachulia maimed Kawhi Leonard, knocking him out of the Western Conference Finals in a game 1 at Golden State, where the Spurs were up by something like 35 early in the second half. I'm just, God, if they win this thing, and I mean the whole thing, the NBA championship, if they win this again, God, I'm just sick of it. And again, Shannon, I think it was Reggie Miller a couple of mornings ago on the Dan Patrick Show, and made a great point. The supporting cast, Andrew Wiggins, just the other guys that are now on this Golden State Warriors roster, other than Steph Curry, Draymond Green, and Klay Thompson, the supporting cast is better than those Warriors teams that won 73 games and won NBA championships. I mean, this could be, as long as Curry, Thompson, and Draymond stay healthy and in their prime, they're all getting older, but this could be an ugly next few years if you don't like the Golden State Warriors, which I do not.
Yeah, you're mentioning that trio, and there was a small package that they played during the pregame show with Steph Curry, and he talked about that trio and how they've been together through all of the ups and downs. That the supporting cast around them has changed, right? You mentioned Wiggins, you have Kevin Durant, you have Andre Iguodala. There's all of these guys that have come and go along with them, and he's really appreciative of the guys who put in the effort and of the guys that are around them now. But as long as that threesome is there and remains the core of that team, there's not much they can't do. And you mentioned how great that supporting cast is right now. And then on the other side of that, you have the Mavericks, who just lack in experience, and specifically playoff experience, something that the Warriors and those three know very well and know in a conference finals situation, not to mention a finals situation, where the Mavericks, the last time they were at the Western Conference Finals was 2011 during that championship year, and none of those guys were in the NBA at that time.
Huge point. Huge point. We got a great show all morning long and a couple of great guests coming up in the 8 o'clock hour. Don Harris, the sports director at News 4 San Antonio. He's going to join us just after 8 o'clock. Lots to talk about with Don, including the NBA playoffs and how he feels now that the Spurs are in the number 9 slot in that NBA draft lottery. And at 8:35, our golf guru, good day to have him coming in, Andy Everett, going to join us. And Shannon, you have unbelievable success when we draft for these major PGA events.
Yeah.
You, Jeremy, Andy Everett, and I will have a PGA tournament draft. And Tiger Woods, once again, I think going to make a lot of headlines for this PGA tournament. How are you? Are you geeked up about the PGA tournament getting underway?
Yeah, I'm getting there. There's something about the Masters that it's kind of all encompassing, and it just provides a feeling I think you don't get anywhere else. But I'm excited. Jordan Spieth, I haven't decided about if he's draftable or not, but that is the one championship he has yet to win. So that would be exciting just to see him do it, as a fan of him, and to see him, continue to have success there. Scotty Scheffler, of course, another Longhorn who has made quite the run and is a Masters champion now. So there's a lot of excitement going into this. And then obviously the absence of Phil Mickelson, I think, will kind of loom over the event as a total, as that Saudi tournament still continues to be a hot topic of conversation.
Yeah, that is so weird. And we'll dive into that a little bit with Andy Everett as well. When we picked the Masters, Jeremy, was it you? Who picked Tiger Woods? Tiger Woods it was you? Yes. Tiger Woods, a big sentimental pick. And I think you used your first pick on him. I was kind of waiting to get him in the third round, but you just came out firing. So, all right, after the Masters now, Jeremy, do you still have this belief in Tiger Woods? Do you think he will learn his lessons from the Masters? Do you think he's in better condition in just a few weeks to, play 4 days of golf if he makes the cut? How do you feel about Tiger Woods' chances in the PGA tournament?
I absolutely love Tiger Woods. I'm all in on Tiger Woods at this point in his career. I have a buddy who's in Tulsa.
Ooh.
He got a media credential to this event, so he has just been following Tiger around like a little girl, like a fan, you know what I mean? Just the biggest fan. He is in heaven. He asked Tiger a question in the interview setting.
Oh my God.
Yeah, he got through the question, no stumbles. So I'm getting tons of content from Tulsa this week. Southern Hills, absolutely beautiful, by the way. Underrated golf course in our country, I've been told, and I've seen with my own eyeballs. So I'm really excited. I'm excited for our draft too. Can't give away any secrets. I know you made me discuss Tiger, so I'm a little worried about it. You're like, make me show my draft board like Jerry.
No, Tiger changed his clubs.
Oh,
he's made some moves in the bag that I don't know. I don't know about that. I think Tiger's a little unsure right now.
Well, if Tiger's unsure, then I'm unsure with Tiger because I'm following him wherever he goes.
Well, we might have to get your, now, I won't be here tomorrow or Monday, but we might have to get your boy, Jeremy, on this show just for an eyewitness account of what he's observing at the PGA Championship. Yeah. So
we'll have our people in the back room reach out and make some calls. You know how it goes.
I mean, he's probably up this early. These golfing people get up at crazy hours like this. And as I mentioned that, a thank you in advance joining Shannon and Jeremy tomorrow and Monday. Coach A, Paul Alexander, who is always phenomenal. So you'll get a full 3 hours of Paul and Shannon and Jeremy tomorrow and on Monday. So and tomorrow as well, Mr. James Allen, who is a Texas Aggie. A little bit later, you will hear more about it. It's a big story. In fact, it's the lead story on a lot of the sports websites this morning. Nick Saban goes off on Texas A&M and even on Deion Sanders. So we will walk you through that one a little bit later as well. So coming up, it is the high five play of the day, which I think is real cool. It's something I just learned about really this morning. We'll get you into that and tell you what it is. It's old school and it's new school. It's the classic past and it's the present and the future. The high five play of the day. Pretty unique. That is coming up, as I mentioned. Don Harris, sports director from News 4 San Antonio, and Andy Everett in the 8 o'clock hour, just after 7:30, little over an hour from now. Shannon's Salty Shakedown, sports history and sports birthdays. On a Throwback Thursday, it's the man in black playing us to the break here, Mr. Johnny Cash. Thank you, Mr. Jeremy KOLOK, for that. She is the salty one. I'm Chris. We're with you till 9 on the Chris Duel Show. Amber, thank you very much. I appreciate that. You're very kind. Let's see. He would. Okay. Good morning, O.M. Garcia. Let me see who I see in here. I see John Williams, Steve Duraco, Haas Holding. I want to underscore Haas has a pair of free tickets to his big wrestling event at the Woodlawn Theater this weekend. I highly recommend it. Anthony Del Toro, Sam Tobias. He's defending his title on Saturday at the Woodlawn Theater. I'll pull up that message from Haas in a moment. Lucinda Sullivan, good morning. Ramon Rodriguez Martinez. Amber, a.k.a. Foamfoot 420. There's Haas has 4 free tickets to Saturday's show. Message him if you would want to go. I will be in Austin. Haas, I'm going to make it out soon, but I go to Austin tomorrow. I'm going to go see the Eagles tomorrow night at the Moody Center, and then Sunday night, Daryl Hall and Todd Rundgren at the Moody Theater, which is not the same as the Moody Center. Amber, once again, thanks for the kind words on the article. Anthony Del Toro, Hector Gomez, good morning. The pride of Central Catholic High School. Nicole, I won't even try to pronounce your last name. What, Mellow Nikki B? Nicole Mellow Nikki B. I can pronounce that. Okay. See? Takes me a while. Jason Paniagua, Jesse Bratton, good morning. Tracy Bogert, the chairman of the Bexar County MAGA Republicans. Always enjoy him. Ralph Balderas. There's Nicole. Good morning, Nicole. All right. How am I doing on coffee? I'm going to stretch a little bit. John says, what is your favorite thing about the 90s? You actually wrote, John, what is your favorite think about the 90s? Just messing with you. I know that's just a typo. He says the Spurs winning the championship in 99. That was pretty good. Luisa Alanis, good morning. Yeah, Tracy Bogart, the Memorial Day Miracle, maybe the single greatest play in Spurs history. It's going to be interesting this year. I was talking about this with my friend Steve Duraco, who was in here earlier and may still be. You know, the Spurs 50th anniversary coming up. And I hope and I trust that the Spurs, I would love to see them one night bring back as many of the original San Antonio Spurs as possible. Of course, a number of them are no longer living. But it would be great to see, Gervin didn't arrive until January of the first season in a trade with the Virginia Squires. But still, I mean, obviously he was in season one. He was on that team. But, to see Kobe Dietrich and James Silas and George Karl, the coach, Tom Nisulke, has passed away. The assistant coach was Rudy Davalos. Get Swin Nader, who they acquired that season. So for their 50th anniversary, the Spurs need to bring back the entire original team from 73, 74. And, a lot of you like O.M. Garcia mentioning, I think I said good morning, O.M. Garcia, the 99 championship. You got to bring that team back. That would be tremendous as well. So, Ramon, the Cowboys winning 2 Super Bowls in the 90s. Actually 3, but 2 back-to-back. Don't forget Super Bowl 30 in 1995. Yeah, I love the Whopper. Bring him back, although they didn't acquire him until season 2 or 3. I think they had Nader the second season, then they made that trade. I think they made that trade in the summer after season 2. I'd have to look it up. And my favorite San Antonio Spur ever, he's obscure to some of you, but not those of you who were around, like Hector Gomez and Steve Duraco. Number 33, Rich Jones. I loved Rich Jones. Last I heard from Kobe Dietrich, he was a bouncer in Las Vegas. 6'8", 240. I would love to see Rich Jones. Woo! High five play of the day coming up. Don't forget that offer from Haas Holding. Let me put that up here one more time. I'll try to remember that for other people who join us later. And Haas, if you already gave away the tickets, let me know that, because you may be getting multiple requests. I don't want to keep pimping that if they're already gone. Let's see. I have got to edit some spots. Luckily, they're already recorded. I want to look at my list here. That, and that should do it, I think. Okay. All right. Yeah, man, Mike Gale. Somewhere on Facebook, Tracy, just like 1 or 2 months before Mike Gale died, he did a sit down for about an hour on Facebook with Gary DeLon. And we have since lost Gary DeLon. I think Mike Gale died, I believe, in 2020. After the summer of 2020. So it's almost 2 years. And then Gary DeLon, who's a legend, passed away, as many of you know, a few months ago. But yeah, it's so good. I need to find it and save it. It'll be on Gary DeLon's page. If you search and Mike Gale's name on Facebook, and I never understood this, was Eugene Ferguson. So search Gary DeLon and Eugene Ferguson, and I'll try to find that too in the coming days, Tracy. It should probably be saved in a time capsule because they talk a lot of old school ABA Hemisphere Arena Spurs. Speaking of time capsule, I got to find, back when I was at KTSA, I did an hour with Terry Stembridge on the phone from Dallas, the voice of the Spurs. I had Kobe Dietrich and Gary DeLon in studio. It was very cool. Little Prince.
It's the Chris Duel Show with Shannon Salty Sweeney. Join in by dialing 1-800-707-9760.
Praise be to Prince Rogers Nelson, the artist known as, and at one time in his career formerly known as, but then he was again known as Prince. Love Prince. Love this song. And if this song was never created, you would not know what it sounds like when doves cry. I'm just saying, he did a service. He did a service to humanity. Now, I can't do it as well as Prince did, but pretty much when doves cry, it roughly sounds like, I can't, that's close. I've been working on my, dove call so that, maybe if I go into the wilderness, I can do that to entertain the doves and to relate to them. But so I've been kind of working on that. So welcome.
Really great.
I know. It's
Perfect.
the Chris Duel Show with Shannon Salty Sweeney, Jeremy KOLOK, providing Prince music for your edification and enjoyment and enlightenment about what it sounds like when doves cry. Later in the program, just after 8 o'clock, Don Harris, news director at News 4 San Antonio and television critic of, I got to let this one go eventually, Winning Time, Rise of the Lakers Dynasty. But we got him to admit last week that he watched all of it, and he did say he was entertained. So he balances his harsh opinion on that program with some truth as well. It's all truth. He doesn't like it. It's okay. Andy EVERETT, our golf guru, the voice of UTSA athletics. Thank you, Coach. He will be here for our PGA Championship draft. Will Jeremy KOLOK spend his first round draft pick once again on Tiger Woods? Exactly. That's what I'm talking about. So that's coming up in a big 8 o'clock hour. And we're about an hour away now from Shannon's Salty Shakedown, this day in sports history, sports birthdays, and more. But first, speaking of Don Harris, and I actually, Shannon, I went to bed early last night, and I was kind of like, lying in bed tracking the score of the Mavericks Golden State Warriors game. When we get into what the high five play of the day is, it was called to your attention a number of times last night during the game one of the Western Conference Finals. I actually saw it this morning. I got up and turned on my Facebook feed, and Don Harris had posted it, and I tagged you guys as well. So let's get into that and tell you what it is. I think it's really, really cool. And if you haven't seen it, we'll tell you how you can see it. It is the high five play of the day, appropriately sponsored by High Five, 2 locations in the Austin area. Someday we'll have one in San Antonio. I am offering a trade, a Las Palapas, straight up to the city of Austin for a high five in San Antonio. I'm still waiting on the return phone calls on that. Haven't gotten them yet. I don't know if they're dissing me, but high five. They got big screen TVs all over the place. They've got great food, great drinks, food specials, drink specials, a gazillion games you can play, from bowling on two floors to laser tag, axe throwing, zombie dodgeball, and a whole lot more. Get into one of the 2 Austin area high five locations. Shannon, Salty, Sweeney. This high five has a lot of the past, a lot of the present, and a lot of the future, and some pretty big names throughout. What is our high five play of the day?
Yes, our high five going to Nike. Their 50th anniversary is what they are celebrating, 50 years in the business. And as you mentioned, for those that watched the Warriors Mavericks game last night, they aired bits and pieces of this Nike 50th anniversary commercial, because it is 4.5 minutes long. In total, it features Spike Lee and a young female, I'm assuming actress. I'm not sure who she is, but Spike Lee helped, of course, to produce and direct this little short, and it is titled it's titled Seen It All. And it runs through over 40 legendary Nike athletes from the past 50 years. Spike Lee kind of kicks it off by talking about, folks that we don't really see play anymore. And then it kind of has a moment right in the middle where they acknowledge Kobe. They pause and remember him, because he obviously is such a huge part of that Nike DNA. It flips over to the girl who talks about current athletes. And a lot of young females are now involved, of course, in media and shown off in the athletic world. So she starts running off a list of all the athletes that are currently working with Nike. I didn't see any Kyrie Irving. Interesting. As we discussed earlier this week, that relationship looks to come to an end. But with this celebration, Nike also says that for the rest of this month, they will be uncovering iconic artifacts and exclusive content from the Department of Nike archives through a variety of digital storytelling and physical retail experiences. I love commercials like this. I feel like Nike's really great at this. We've seen, the Tiger Woods one, and then during the Super Bowl, there's often sports related extended commercials that really just kind of capture your eye. And this one, as they just run through all of the incredible athletes that at the end they say it's because of the shoes that Nike really has played a huge role in athletics for the past 50 years.
Well, and it was really cool, for anybody old like I am, and I remember so many of those Nike athletes. And again, I'm pulling up some of the names that appear: Charles Barkley, Sue Bird, of course, Kobe Bryant. It's a really cool moment, as Shannon mentions, when they feature Kobe, George Gervin, Kirk Gibson, Steve Prefontaine, a runner who died tragically, Joan Benoit Samuelson, a marathon runner, Serena Williams is in it, Tiger Woods, of course, Andre Agassi, modern day athletes like Joe Burrow, Luka Doncic. It was directed, LeBron, of course, is in it, Michael Jordan, Colin Kaepernick is in it. It was directed by Spike Lee. He reprises his Mars Blackman character in it, which he did Nike commercials with Michael Jordan as Mars Blackman, his character from his movie, She's Gotta Have It. And the woman opposite him was a cast member from She's Gotta Have It, Indigo Hubbard Salk. It was it's so cool. And I mean, again, if you're old, and even if you're not old enough to remember those old Nike commercials, I mean, you clearly know about, Michael Jordan and Tiger Woods and LeBron James. So I think no matter what your age, you would enjoy seeing it. And as you mentioned, Shannon, the whole thing runs over 4 minutes, something like 4:30. So Jeremy KOLOK, your thoughts on it? Again, for me, it's kind of, the first half of it is kind of nostalgia before it goes into modern day athletes. But even though you are at the tender age of 23, were you able to get into it?
Oh yeah, I loved it. It was a lot to digest, Chris and Shannon. I feel like I need to watch it multiple times just so I can focus on different aspects of it. But I thought it was fantastic.
Yeah, it goes by quickly. And what I think goes a little too quickly, Shannon, the George Gervin, that iconic Iceman poster that most of us know about, that came out in the late 70s, early 80s, a Nike poster where he's sitting on this ice throne with these silvery ice basketballs, and he's wearing a silver running suit, Nike running suit, just with the letters ICE, ice, on them. They only show like a flash. Mars Blackman, the Spike Lee character, goes, "I've seen the Iceman," and boom, it just flashes on your screen for a moment. I would have liked a little more George Gervin, Shannon. I would have liked to see a little finger roll, just one highlight. George going to the bucket with a little finger roll would have been nice. And I know Spike Lee's the director. I don't want to give him any directorial advice, but I'm just saying a little more George Gervin would have been nice.
A little more George Gervin. Well, for those that want to see the commercial themselves and want to make the same argument as Chris, we've got that on our Chris Duel Show blog page. So go and check that out because it is pretty fantastic. Again, 4.5 minutes. So make some time. It's not a little short TikTok video.
Yeah, don't watch it during the show.
Feature production.
Yeah, watch it after the show because even when we go to commercial, you want to stay for the commercials on this show because they're just such great sponsors.
So good.
We mean that, darn it. So, all right, we talked about the Mavericks not taking care of business last night. It was pretty much all Golden State Warriors, 112-87. So, Shannon, I guess we now turn our attention to the next game, which will be game number 2 between the game number 2 coming up between the Miami Heat and the Boston Celtics. That's game 3 is on Saturday. So I'm guessing game number 2 is tonight. Is that right? I'm pulling up
my 7:30.
Okay, thank you.
On
Glad
ESPN.
you know that. Because I clicked on a website to see tonight's game and it took me to Saturday. So yes, 7:30, 4-letter network. A pretty big one, Shannon. As you mentioned earlier, the Mavericks came back from 0-2 in that Phoenix Suns series to beat Phoenix in 7. I don't think the Boston Celtics want to go into an 0-2 hole. I don't have the number in front of me, but you take a 2-0 lead in a best-of-7 series in the NBA, and you're looking pretty darn good. Granted, as we cited yesterday, it's an old adage that the playoffs don't really begin until somebody wins a game on the opponent's home floor. So even if the Celtics lose tonight, they'll be able to say, and a lot of people will, the Heat just held serve. So then the Celtics would have to go back to TD Garden and win the next 2. But Shannon, if the Celtics, and you and I both picked the Celtics before this series began, if Jason Tatum and company can lead the Celtics back tonight and make it 1-1, I think then it's fasten your seatbelts. We're probably going to be in for a long and very exciting series here.
Yes, and on Boston's side of things, Marcus Smart, who was out with a midfoot sprain, is still listed as probable. Al Horford out for health and safety protocols, also doubtful for game 2. So Miami, though, they're not fully healthy either, with Kyle Lowry sitting out for what we'll believe his 4th game in a row during these finals with an injury. So both teams down, but obviously I think it was clear, a huge hit when 2 starters are knocked out for your team to start a Eastern Conference Finals appearance. So they'll definitely miss them. So I think they'll do all they can to attempt to get a win tonight, but it's interesting. Line opened at 5 in favor of the Miami Heat. It's dropped to 3.5. So I don't know, maybe there'll be some movement. Maybe Marcus or Al will surprise us and make an appearance. But as of right now, they are listed as probable.
And Al Horford is not, obviously Jason Tatum is their biggest star for the Celtics, but Al Horford is a force. I mean, he usually gets a double-double. He's great on the defensive end, and he's a great rebounder, and he can score. And that, again, we talked about it a little bit yesterday, Shannon. COVID, health and safety protocols. We know what that means. He either has it or he was exposed to it, and they're taking extreme precautions. But it is so scary for any team. When we get into the football season, for Cowboys fans, college, for the Longhorns, for whatever team you root for, you can have a great season And still, because this thing isn't over, and you could still see this happen to another team in the NBA. Horford's a pretty big name. If it ever happens to like one of the biggest names, if it happens to a Steph Curry, if it happens to a Luka Doncic, then we've got, you know, and already though, you lose an Al Horford, in addition, as you mentioned, to Marcus Smart, that affects those are two key players. That affects your chances, especially in a championship series, Eastern Conference championships, where you're playing a very, very good opponent. You're playing the number 1 overall seed in the East, Miami, and you need all of the tools you can have in your arsenal. It's got to hurt.
Yeah. Well, and Al Horford, he did have COVID in the preseason of this year and then was again out for health and safety protocol in December. So, we know that COVID has certain effects on your body. And so once he's had it, that's something they have to look out for. So I imagine that is playing a role in this decision going on right now. And, when you take out those guys, it messes with your rotation. I mean, the folks who filled in did okay up into a point till that third quarter collapse. And that's where you really wish you had those guys coming off the bench rather than having to put in the work early for that team.
And I saw somebody post earlier this morning when I got up about Stephen Colbert, the television host and comedian, apparently had COVID, had to leave his show for a while, came back, and then he tested positive for COVID again. A second time. This variant, we used to believe, and the science is always changing, and these variants are morphing into other things. We used to believe that if you got it, you're good for a while, if not a long while, that you would have immunity and you're over the ordeal of COVID. So for all of us, including athletes and entertainers like Stephen Colbert, I mean, you can get it twice. You can have it twice in a short period of time. That's a little frightening.
Jimmy Kimmel also out right now for a second time. He's having guests fill in for him. I believe Andy Samberg and John Mulaney.
My goodness. So, yep, it's still out there. So that's a cautionary tale for all of us. Be a little vigilant. Be careful. But for those of us who are sports fans, that can affect us as well. Shannon, once again, Andy Everett at 8:35. We're going to do our PGA Championship draft. Are you ready to go, or like me, are you going to do some cheating and some last second studying for the test before 8:35? I still have to do some research.
Yeah, I'm not sure when this tees off, but I would imagine there's a chance that they might tee off before we take to our picks. But I think it'll be from the gut for me, live and real reaction as I make my picks.
So now, are you going to do? You have some online snake draft generator? Are you going to generate our draft order?
Oh, it's very scientific. I go to Google and I say randomizer, and then I click on the spinny wheel one, and I put our names in, and it randomly spins the wheel, and whoever's name it lands on is next in line in the snake picker.
Randomizer on Google. If you ever want to come up with a random draft order. All right. Once again, here's Prince teaching us what it sounds like when doves cry. That's news. If you're ever in nature and you want to call some doves or get doves to sympathize with you, it's a good idea. I recommend it. Coming up, let's talk some NFL football in addition to everything else sports. She's Shannon Salty Sweeney. He's Jeremy KOLOK. It's the Chris Duel Show. Good morning, Michelle Johnson from Marysville, Kansas. Tracy found, and Tracy, I got to save that link, man. Gary DeLon sitting down with Mike Gale less than 2 years ago. I think less than 2 months after that interview, Mike Gale passed away. Mike Gale, a very early ABA Spur. They got him in a trade with the New York Nets. Lived in San Antonio ever since. And just a great, great man, as was Gary DeLon, who passed away a couple of years ago. I'm going to have to save that link, Tracy. So I'll go look for that and find a way to save it. But thank you for posting that. There it is. Yeah, July 31st, 2020. My goodness. Yeah, and Mike Gale wearing his mask. We were in the height of, I'm looking at the video right now. We were in the height of COVID. So let me, thank you, Tracy. You did did me a big service there because I want to go back and look at that again, and I want to keep it for my Spurs archives. So let's see here. Yeah, and it's so sad. And again, I was talking about this with Steve Duraco yesterday. You know, people like Gary DeLon, who loved the Spurs, and he was a Spurs broadcaster. He would fill in for Terry Stembridge, and Gary previously did some other ABA games. Mike Gale, you know, neither one of these guys. Here's this new 50th anniversary Spurs logo. I'm assuming a lot of these Spurs are going to be honored. You know, and it's just sad that, you know, Mike Gale won't be here for that. Bob Bass won't be here for that. Stan Albeck won't be here for that. You know, so many great contributors to the Spurs. You know, the original coach, Tom Nasalki, no longer with us. Bird Averett, an original San Antonio Spur. The original Bird. Before Larry Bird, there was Bird Averett. And before Kobe, there was Kobe Dietrich. I'm just saying. I'll be right back. Woo! Cotton Fitzsimmons, there's another name. Doug Moe. Doug Moe's still with us. Thank goodness. But Cotton Fitzsimmons has passed away, sadly. All right. Do my... Let's do that. Let's get out of that. Uh-oh. John Lucas now with the Houston Rockets.
Our water heater busted. Cooper has to have surgery. No matter what you have going on, you
All
can
right.
still afford LASIK. Really? At the LASIK Vision Institute, LASIK's all we do. So we can provide amazing pricing and discounts that others just can't. Okay, but what I really can't afford is a long recovery. LASIK only takes minutes, and most patients are back to normal activities the next day.
I think I've got time for one more of these.
Institute can give you new vision without getting in the way of your life. So take advantage of our special offer now.
The LASIK Vision Institute is offering 20% off LASIK in May. That can be over $900 off when treating both eyes, plus guaranteed financing. So book your free consultation with the experts in LASIK and visit LASIK.com. That's LASIK.com. Amazing vision, amazing price. Let's mention this promotion will be treated in May 2022 to qualify. 20% off standard price procedure. Cannot be combined with any other offers. Go to LASIK.com for details.
All right. Almost back. Good morning, Beth Settle. Welcome in, Beth. I hope you are feeling better this morning. John Williams giving us a lot of former Spurs coaches. Morris McCone, that's probably the most obscure one to people. I think Tarkanian would have been the shortest tenured Spurs coach. It did not last long. Original Spurs coach, Tom Nisalke, fired by general manager John Begzos early in the 74-75 season. Good morning, Elliot. Here we come. Woo! Woo! Here we come. Let's do this thing. 7 o'clock hour goes a little bit something like this. Muting a little bit for our evil Facebook overlords. Not today, Zuckerberg.
Now, Chris Chris Duel.
Welcome in on this Thursday, a throwback Thursday, a throwback taco Thursday. I think we're going to start making that a thing because you got Taco Tuesday and you've got Throwback Thursday. But shouldn't we also have tacos? Shouldn't we be throwing back tacos on a Thursday?
I like it.
I think it's ours now, Shannon. We got to don't steal that one, LeBron James. Hi, everybody. I'm LeBron James, and today is Throwback Taco Thursday. It's mine now, LeBron James. I love you, LeBron, but you can't steal Taco Tuesday is not yours, LeBron James, and quit trying to get Michelle Beadle fired. Speaking of Michelle Beadle, Shannon, breaking Michelle Beadle news. Yesterday, she followed me back on Twitter. I've been following Michelle Beadle on Twitter for like ever. And randomly yesterday on May 18th, 2022, I've probably been following her for years on Twitter. It's like, wow, Michelle Beadle followed you back. Thank you, Michelle.
You know why? Because she read that article about you, Chris, and she was like, he is a nice guy. He's not like the rest of those guys. He's a nice guy. I will follow him back.
He's not the jerk he seems to be on the radio all the time. So we got to get her on the, I had her on like a previous radio program at another station, but so we need to, we'll try to get her on the show. So we got two new guests. We'll effort to get Michelle Beadle on the show, and we will get Jeremy's golf correspondent. What is the name, Jeremy, of your golf correspondent in Tulsa at the PGA Championship?
His name is Cameron Jordan. He's a staff writer for the Oklahoman.
Oh my goodness! Now is he a graduate? Did you meet him at Oklahoma State University?
I did go to school with him.
Very nice. So now the Oklahoman, I assume they're really, and correct me if I'm wrong, I'm assuming they're very partisan to the Oklahoma Sooners, or are they? Is he like an infiltrator? Is that like an Aggie, writing for the Austin American Statesman? What is that like?
They try to get some equal representation in there. It does lean a little, whatever you want to call that color, like mixed maroon, and what do they call their color at OU? Do y'all know what is
Crimson?
Oh God, yeah, because
really?
it's crimson and cream.
They call it crimson after all the years of the Crimson Tide at Alabama. That's a little derivative. You would think they would have called it something different. Well, we want to be Alabama. Speaking of Alabama, and I see James Allen in our Good Morning James Allen on the live video feed, our good friend from the Pro Football Hall of Fame. A little bit later in the show, you'll learn more about Nick Saban going off on James Allen's beloved Texas Aggies and going off on Deion Sanders. It's one thing, sir, to go off on the Aggies. When you go off on Deion Sanders, I got issues. Anyway, you're going to hear more about that coming up. So tomorrow on the show, James Allen at 8:05, along with Shannon Salty Sweeney and Coach A, Paul Alexander. Maybe tomorrow we'll get a rebuttal from James Allen, and we can send that to Tuscaloosa. Maybe start a Twitter war, Shannon, between James Allen and Nick Saban. That's
exciting. Nick Saban doesn't use email. I can tell you he doesn't have Twitter.
Wow. Yeah, we got some Nick Saban talk coming a little later in the show that you will appreciate, and we might even talk about that with Don Harris as well. Just a reminder, Don Harris from News 4 San Antonio, who posted that Nike 50th anniversary commercial, caught my eye this morning. Don Harris going to join us at 8:05, and our PGA Championship draft will be at 8:35 with our golf guru, Andy Everett. And Shannon, Andy's supposed to be this big old golf expert, host of the golf show, right. Travels the world. He plays golf in Scotland every couple of years. Andy, because he's making all that UTSA money, Andy goes to Scotland to play golf because he's an elitist. I love Andy. But so, and here, like every single time it seems that we do a PGA tournament draft, whatever the tournament is, most recently the Masters, the winner is not Andy Everett. The winner is always Shannon Salty Sweeney. I'm wondering if Andy Everett's starting to get just a little ticked off, Shannon, that you embarrass him regularly in these tournaments.
It's okay that he's not a gambling man. That's okay.
Yeah.
It might be for the best considering the outcomes he's had.
Yeah, I wonder if Andy in his home has a Shannon Salty Sweeney dartboard, or maybe he may invest in a voodoo doll, Shannon.
Yep, right. That's a little more
you all of a
practical.
sudden-
Carry it everywhere.
Yeah, if you have a stinging sensation in the shoulder or the arm, it might be
All the time.
Andy Everett might have a voodoo doll. So I will advise him and wag my finger at him. Don't you ever get a voodoo doll, Andy Everett. Anyway, he's going to join us coming up in the 8 o'clock hour. Don Harris, 8:05, Andy Everett, and our PGA Championship draft at 8:35. Shannon's Salty Shakedown at 7:40 this half hour, about 30 minutes from now. Sports history, sports birthday as well. We didn't even mention it, and I should have, our talkback feature on the free iHeartRadio app. We love hearing from you, and probably the easiest way to get your voice to us is you go to that free iHeartRadio app where the sound is always crystal clear, and you press a little microphone button, you leave a message, you press send, we get it instantly. Our good friend Wes Perkins just told us on the live video feed that he sent us a talkback message, so we'll hear that in a little bit, but we invite you to do that as well. You can also dial us up on the phone lines, 800-707-9760 to join us there. And Shannon, we talked about the Mavericks' loss last night in game number 1 of the Western Conference Finals to the Golden State Warriors, 112-87. But there were other ancillary storylines involved with that game last night. One of them involving our good friend Charles Barkley, who and it again, when things like this happen, I'm glad it's not Spurs fans doing this.
Yeah.
But Shannon, apparently Warriors fans, while Charles, Kenny the Jet Smith, Ernie Johnson, and Shaq were on the air on TNT, they had a chant for Charles that was not exactly loving and flattering. Well, what was that all about?
Yeah, so TNT, for whatever reason, and I don't know if they've done this in the past, but all of the Heat Celtics games on the 4-letter network, all of the Warriors Mavericks games on TNT. So TNT, they carry you the whole way through. They have pregame, they have halftime, and they have postgame. And during pregame, Charles kind of went on a rant about the city of San Francisco and how he's really not a fan. And he was cheering for the Mavericks and pushing for the Mavericks to win this game. Jump to post game, and Charles Barkley is live on the air with TNT, and all of the Warriors fans are outside standing behind him, kind of similar to what we saw, I think, last year during the playoffs with Alex Rodriguez. But they were just chanting, "Charles, you suck," over and over, so much so that Charles turned around in the mid-sentence to say, "You suck too."
Wow.
So this, and this again, we talked yesterday, would there be contention between the Mavericks and the Warriors right after the physical series that they just came from? Turns out it's between Charles Barkley and the Warriors fans.
Now, see, I didn't hear the first part of this. I heard about the "Chuck, you suck" chants.
Yes.
And Charles turning around going, "You suck too," which is classic Charles Barkley. But I did not know that he insulted the city of San Francisco. First of all, if you've ever been to the city of San Francisco, it's an amazing city. It's a beautiful city. I don't like the Warriors. I don't like the San Francisco 49ers, but the city of San Francisco is very, very cool. They got a great race I used to run in May called the Bay to Breakers race, which is cool. Everybody dresses in a costume. It's a 7.7 mile run, and it's like a fiesta in running shoes, and it's just fun. I kind of can empathize a little bit, Shannon. There was a time when your beloved Dallas Mavericks owner, Mark Cuban, during a playoff series between the Spurs and the Dallas Mavericks, disparaged the San Antonio Riverwalk and said, "That's not a river, that's a creek, and it's a dirty green creek that runs through." I mean, it's one thing to playfully, talk a little trash. When you slam somebody's city, when you slam the Riverwalk, Mark Cuban, or when you slam San Francisco and you're Charles Barkley, I can kind of see why the Warriors fans might want to throw it right back at Charles there.
Yeah, and he said something on Sunday night, actually, after the Mavericks won that game. to carry on through the playoffs. And he said on the show, "We're going to hell. I mean, San Francisco.
Oh,
I hate San Francisco. I just don't like it. I've never had fun there." So when they kicked off that show yesterday, he was already chanting "Let's go Mavs" and get rubbing it in for his hatred of that city.
now, and again, as I mentioned, Mark Cuban, Charles Barkley famously, I don't know if he continues to do it or not. He might have stopped. He used to make fun of the women in San Antonio. He says the San Antonio women are overweight. And I mean, I'm being nice. I mean, he puts it in uglier terms. So, I mean, we have in San Antonio, when he does that to San Antonio, Shannon, and now as you describe him calling San Francisco hell and that he doesn't like the place, he's never had fun there. I just wonder how much of this is WWE. I wonder how much of this is he's just having fun. This is his shtick to pick a community, and that if you say something disparaging, it's gonna rub them the wrong way, and you're gonna have a little rivalry. And again, here we are, Shannon and Jeremy, talking about the TNT post game, talking about the chant "Chuck, you suck," and what Charles. I mean, it's genius, actually. Yeah. I mean, first of all, they're a huge show. They're hugely rated. Everybody wants to watch. Whenever I see that panel, even if I don't care about the game, I put my remote control down and I'm in for the long haul because I love those guys. Yeah, maybe this is just sheer genius on Charles's part to get us talking even more about that TNT panel.
You talk about rubbing the wrong way and how huge stars they are on that panel. For whatever reason, they threw Dwayne Wade into the mix, and so there were 5 guys at that sports desk with Shaq and Charles on the ends. In the middle, Dwayne Wade, and then smushing him into that sandwich was Ernie Johnson and Kenny the Jet Smith. They showed them during the halftime report, where they were in the stadium and they were doing a wide shot. So you could see the entire table and you could see half of Shaq's body sitting outside the table. If you haven't seen it, there's a picture on my phone, on my Twitter that I posted. I was one of many people. They actually came back from commercial break at one point to show some tweets that people had sent out about their situation. I mean, they looked like grown men sitting at the kids' table at Thanksgiving. Like, they can't get them something bigger. I mean, that's already a small space to fit those large men. And then you throw Dwayne Wade in there as well. They looked ridiculous last night.
Yeah, I saw your tweet and it was spot on. I do think they looked ridiculous, and it does look like grown men sitting at a kiddie table. Jeremy KOLOK, before we talk about the table, which is ridiculous, and again, as much as Dwayne Wade is a name, I don't know that Dwayne Wade adds to the conversation with those guys because they're so good, and it's hard for Dwayne Wade to hang with them. We'll talk about that. But Charles Barkley disparaging the city of San Francisco in a similar fashion as he does San Antonio and its women. Your thoughts on Charles Barkley? Is he serious? Is he just poking the bear? What's he doing here?
Well, it sounds personal, doesn't it? Like something happened to him in San Francisco, right? But like you said, Chris, it's genius. I mean, I can't even remember the last time he mentioned San Antonio or something about the women, but we still talk about it. And you could ask anybody in this city and they're aware of it, and they probably have some kind of feelings toward it. It riles people up. So he knows exactly what he's doing, whether he really, really feels that way or not about San Francisco. I would like to know why, because like with the San Antonio thing, he's like attacking people, like a certain type of person. But with San Francisco, he's just the blanket the whole. I don't like the whole city. So I'm just curious about it, but it's genius.
I think it is. And your thoughts on the kiddie table? I mean, I'm assuming logistically, that's prime real estate in the Chase Center. The arena wants to put in as many seats as it can. So I'm assuming it doesn't have a big space there, but as Shannon mentions, I would think they'd be able to accommodate them and get a bigger table. That looked a little ridiculous.
Yeah, you would think so, right? Maybe there was some producer or something that was like his joke to us. That was his gift to us as viewers. But you'd think anytime Shaq is involved, that they've had Shaq and Chuck involved with this operation for quite some time, you'd think they would be a little bit more prepared, maybe, right?
Yeah. I mean, the TV studio table is giant and they are all spaced out to where they have plenty of room. And I get it. Those flex desks that are made for those broadcasts, we see them all of the time. You know, they're meant for 4 people and they're built out completely. But for normal sized people, you have all of these NBA athletes and 2 of them, some of the biggest from the league. I don't understand why they weren't like, do we have something different for tonight? Or maybe we just don't put Dwayne Wade in. Maybe we don't do that. He's not really adding much anyway.
Yeah, I'm going to go back on YouTube and watch that. I got a feeling, and again, I like Dwayne Wade, nothing against him, but why screw it up? I mean, if we were the producers of the TNT postgame show, like you said, I don't think you need Dwayne Wade. You've got a superstar lineup, and plus, even if it's almost like Jason Witten, even if Dwayne Wade is good but not great at being on the microphone, and obviously he's one of the top 50 players or 75 players in NBA history. Dwayne Wade knows what he's talking about. Still, the odds that you can be as insightful but be entertaining as Shaq and Charles and Kenny and Ernie, the odds are so much against that. It's almost like a no-win situation for Dwayne Wade stepping into that, stepping behind that little table.
Yeah, well, it starts to make me wonder, you know, Charles has said, you know, he's going to retire from it when he's 60. He doesn't want to do it forever, and he's currently 59. That feels maybe like they're doing an audition almost, you know, to see that chemistry. And because obviously former teammate with Shaq, they won a championship together, right? So they've got that going for them, that maybe there's some of that going on of a bit of an audition. And, you know, that way when Charles does decide to step aside, there's some familiarity with Dwayne working with the rest of that cast.
I think you're onto something. That makes total plausible sense. That's a bit of an audition. I mean, if Dwayne Wade were good, you're right. Not only a teammate with Shaq, but having been a teammate with LeBron, and LeBron is such a huge storyline in the NBA. You know, the insights that Dwayne Wade could give about LeBron would be probably pretty good as well. And, you know, he's much closer to the modern players. He's played with a lot of guys who are still in the league, whereas, you know, Shaq and Charles, who may be leaving, and Kenny Smith had not. It's been many, many years since those guys played. All right, Shannon. So you got the Chuck, you suck chant from the Warriors fans, and Chuck turns around and tells them they suck last night. You already debunked, and you said it has been debunked, the photo that went out before the game of Luka Doncic and Boban Marjanovic day drinking before the game. As you've mentioned, people have proven that's an old photo. That was just kind of a little internet hoax that happened. I'm also learning, Shannon, you know more about it. The Dallas Mavericks apparently violated bench decorum. What was that story?
Bench decorum says, you know, players and staff can't be standing for too long on the sidelines, and they can't be encroaching on the actual court. And out of the excitement during Game 7, they were doing that a little too much. So they were fined $50,000. And the reason why it was a $50,000 fine was because they did the same thing in Game 2 of that series against the Suns, and that was a $25,000 fine. So they doubled it for their second offense. Hopefully they've learned their lesson, or maybe they don't need to have that lesson learned. If they play like last night and they keep losing, they probably won't get close to having to have another fine bestowed upon them.
You know, I wonder though, if you're Mark Cuban, a $50,000 fine. Yeah, exactly. I mean, if you're winning, and until last night, things were going really well for the Mavericks, and they may return to that. If you're Mark Cuban and people want to just celebrate and congregate and violate bench decorum,
sure.
I think Mark Cuban will say, put that on my card here, take it, fine.
I have to imagine Mark Cuban, same as Jerry Jones, feels like all press is good press, right?
Yeah.
As far as the Mavericks are concerned. And so this morning, instead of everyone focusing too much on the loss last night, it's the story about their fine, which still not a great story, but it takes the heat off a little bit from the loss.
True. Very, very true. And coming up, you know, I want to make sure we mention this as we move into the Salty Shakedown, sports history, sports birthdays in the next segment. And then we've got Don Harris from News 4 San Antonio in the 8 o'clock hour, along with our PGA Championship draft and Andy Everett. But there is Cowboys news as well, Shannon, and the Cowboys going to have joint practices with another team that now has a pretty high-profile quarterback. What's that story?
Dallas Cowboys and the Broncos will get together in August for joint practices. In the past, they've done some joint practices, and if I'm not mistaken, they did some with the Washington football team at one point, right? And
think
that
you're
is
right,
the one
yeah.
that ended up in brawls. So
As it
hopefully
should.
not competing in practice against a division rival will settle them a little bit. Of course, I think the Broncos whipped up on the Cowboys the last time they met, and so hopefully Russell Wilson can manage his team and Dak can manage theirs, and it can just be a successful practice and not one that ends up in the media for all the wrong reasons.
That's going to be, that whole Russell Wilson to the Broncos storyline is going to be big all season. And, the novelty of seeing Russell Wilson quarterbacking the Denver Broncos, especially in training camp when we're so football starved by that point, that should be very, the Cowboys, Shannon, especially in Dallas and across Texas, if they televise that, those joint practices, and if they scrimmage, if they put that on DallasCowboys.com, I'd watch that. I mean, Russell Wilson versus Dak Prescott in a controlled scrimmage on the field during training camp. That would be must-see TV for me. I'd be all over that. I hope they're and knowing Jerry Jones, they televise a lot of stuff in training camp via DallasCowboys.com. We may get a chance to see that.
Well, not to mention with that storyline, Randy Gregory now with the Broncos as well. So that'll be huge on the defensive side of things.
Maybe we will have some brawls. Maybe it's time for somebody to, take a shot at turncoat Randy Gregory, and apparently it was Jerry's fault that Randy Gregory got away. But all right.
He doesn't know how to read.
Exactly. Yeah, there you go. All right. Lots of big shows still to come. Coming up, Shannon's Salty Shakedown, including there's one of the stories in the Shakedown that's one of the big stories in sports today. We will react to it. Might even bring it up with Don Harris, who's going to join us just after 8 o'clock. News 4 San Antonio sports director Don Harris. Then at 8:35, our golf guru, the voice of UTSA athletics, Andy Everett, trying to avoid embarrassment once again and let Shannon Salty Sweeney humiliate us all in another PGA draft, this one for the PGA tournament, which we will do just after 8:30. She's Shannon Salty Sweeney. Jeremy KOLOK makes the show go. We are with you till 9. Thanks for hanging out with us on the Chris Duel Show. Okay, so Caesar saying Dwayne Wade has been coming out frequently on the NBA on TNT this season. So, yeah, I think Shannon's probably right. They're getting us used to Dwayne Wade if and when Charles Barkley, as he suggests, wants to step away. Wow. I'm looking at something else Charles said. Charles had even tastier words for the fans in see if I can hear this. Is that muted? What's going on here? Charles Barkley. Funny. I still like him, even though he disparages the women of San Antonio. Let's see. I got to do this again. Okay, I've done 2 of these. Whoops. Okay, there's that. Do I need ice? I think I need ice. I don't think I have time for ice. I'll have to do that in a minute. Whoops. I just wrote you, Jeremy. We'll do Wes's talk back here out of the gate quickly, and then I will dive into everything else. Thanks. Okay. I got to check something. Did somebody say ice? I'm telling you, Sam, it's a golden idea. Iceman Ice, exclusively at HEB. You and I take that idea to HEB. We just rake it in. We get that on the bags of Iceman Ice. You've got Gervin sitting there like from the Nike poster. He could do HEB commercials. Everybody loves Gervin. Sell that Iceman Ice at HEB. It would be huge. And the commercial writes itself. George Gervin says, "Did somebody say ice?" And George Gervin's like delivering the ice to party goers, people at barbecues. Could be huge, man. Just trying to make more money for HEB and George Gervin and us. All right. Very cool, John. John sent me some cool Brittany Griner artwork. It says, "Stay strong, Brittany Griner." It says artwork of Brittany Griner. God, hopefully they will work to get her released. It's already been too ridiculous. Okay, I've got sports history. I got sports birthdays. Wes Perkins, we've got your talk back. If you're still with us, we'll play that. Jesse Bratton. Woo! Thank you, Jesse. Here we come. Woo!
Got this feeling inside my bones. Baby, when I turn it on.
Chris and Salty on Twitter, at Chris Duel and at Shannon B. Sweeney.
Thank you, voice dude. Chris Duel Show with Shannon Salty Sweeney, moments away from Shannon's Salty Shakedown. Just after 8 o'clock, Don Harris, News 4 San Antonio sports director. Don Harris, lots to talk about with Don, lots of things going on in the world of sports. Andy Everett, our golf guru, voice of UTSA Athletics. We will have our PGA Championship draft just after 8:30. Will Jeremy select Tiger Woods with his first pick? Or might I pick ahead of Jeremy and just grab Tiger Woods just to agitate him? I don't know. Anything's possible. So anyway, that's coming. Salty Shakedown, sports history, sports birthdays. But first, we have a talkback feature that we love. And we love it when you leave us a talkback message. It's easy on the free iHeartRadio app. You go there, you see a microphone button, you press that, you leave a message, you press send. Bingo! We get it. We hear it. We play it on the air. We got a message from our good friend Wes Perkins, and this was his talkback message.
Good morning. This shout out is for Chris Duel himself.
Uh-oh.
I wanted to say congrats on the article, a great article on the Express News about you and all the wonderful things that you've done and accomplished and continue to do here in San Antonio. Even tolerating a person like me calling your airwaves all the time and giving me a chance to say a few things with you on the air. Thanks, Chris, for all you do for all of us. We appreciate it.
Okay, that was too nice. I didn't know in advance, Shannon.
How much did you pay him?
Wasn't like a self-serving public service announcement about me from Wes Perkins. Thank you, Wes. You're very kind. And we talked about it on the air yesterday. My thanks to reporter Rich Marini of the San Antonio Express News. He wrote a really nice, probably too nice of an article. He should have put some dirt in there to balance it out a little bit. And in it, Elf Louise Locker, and Mr. Mike Taylor had some nice things to say. So thanks to them as well. Thank you, Wes. All right, we'll move on. Let's do this. Shannon Salty Shakedown is coming. But first, some sports history, some sports birthdays. Let's start with this day in sports history. On this day in 1973, I remember this. It was the 98th Preakness. Ron Turcotte aboard Secretariat wins the Preakness in 1:54. It was the fastest Preakness race ever, and Secretariat went on to win the Triple Crown. Secretariat was a big deal in 1973. On this day in 1991, Willie T. Ribbs overcomes numerous mechanical problems in qualifying to become the first African-American driver to make the Indianapolis 500 starting grid. A, that's incredible. But B, it took until 1991 to have an African-American driver in the Indianapolis 500. You would have hoped that would have happened a lot sooner, but Willie T. Ribbs, certainly a groundbreaker and a historic figure in sports. Good for him. Finally, on this day in 2021, just a year ago today, New York Yankees pitcher Corey Kluber no-hits the Texas Rangers 2-0 at Globe Life Field in Arlington. Damn Yankees. That's your sports history. How about some sports birthdays? Born on this day in 1932, Basketball Hall of Fame coach Bill Fitch. He won the NBA championship for the Celtics in 1981, NBA Coach of the Year in 1976 and 1980. He coached the All-Stars, the NBA All-Star team. He coached with the Cavs, the New Jersey Nets, the LA Clippers, and the Celtics. Bill Fitch was born in Davenport, Iowa, and sadly, he passed away this year in 2022. I didn't know that until we looked up the sports birthdays today. Born on this day in 1942, Curly Neal, Harlem Globetrotter legend from 1963 to 1985. Curly Neal was born in Greensboro, North Carolina. He passed away in the year 2020. And finally, born on this day in 1976, basketball forward. If he's not in the Naismith Memorial Basketball Hall of Fame yet, he will be. Kevin Garnett, 15-time NBA All-Star, but always tried to agitate Tim Duncan on the floor. It never quite worked, and Timmy usually won those battles against Garnett. Kevin Garnett was born in Greenville, South Carolina. Those are your sports birthdays. That's your sports history. And now, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, friends, Romans, countrymen, farm animals, pole assassins, and monkeys, here it is, your Throwback Taco Thursday Salty Shakedown.
All right, we're going to start in the world of baseball. The New York Yankees, which so many people think are, a little sleazy. Well, they also have sleazy characters in their organization, except they let one go yesterday, and I think it was the right move. They released a minor leaguer by the name of Jake Sanford. He was a 2019 third-round pick. And keep this in mind, he signed a $597,000 deal when he was drafted in 2019. And the reason for his early exit from the organization was because he was asking teammates for their equipment, bats, gloves, any other baseball equipment you can imagine, to sell them. So much so that he was considered to be hounding them by complaints of teammates. He even found himself stealing some equipment when he was not given it to him in the first place. He would then go sell the equipment online. And according to fans who were part of the purchasing of this equipment, he would take the money and then ghost them. So he was stealing from everybody on all sides. Listen, I understand the minor leaguers don't pay their players nearly enough. That is a work in progress, but he also had a pretty nice hefty signing bonus. And those other minor leaguers, just like yourself, probably wanting a little extra cash. Why would you do that? I remember being in high school, and that was always a point of contention, right? When someone came back to the locker room and they noticed something was missing out of their locker, whether it's because they accidentally left it open, whether it's because someone actually stole something or they just misplaced it, it would quickly turn into an argument between some young ladies when something seemed to have disappeared. I can't imagine these guys who, again, and like we talked about, bats, gloves, playing baseball, it's not cheap, especially when you're providing it for yourself. So for him to be doing this in the first place is kind of unimaginable, but I got to give credit to the Yankees organization for saying, you gots to go.
Awful. And the worst part of it, I mean, it's all bad, Shannon, but the worst part of it, as you mentioned, the dude would sell this equipment, these items online. Someone would pay him money and then he'd disappear. Fans would go, then he'd ghost them and rip them off. How did you think you would get away with that? I mean, even if you're not a public figure, even if you're not a baseball player that hardcore fans have heard of, Jake Sanford, how did you think that would not become a story? My God, not only is he a thief, he's an idiot.
Yep.
So yeah, good riddance. But I am glad if he's going to be on any team, ripping off a team and bringing more, scorn onto their name. Yankees, cool, good. I'm glad he was a Yankee.
I hope he still has plenty of that signing bonus left, because now he is without a job. Moving on to story number 2, it's one of the bigger ones in sports today. I didn't realize it was that big until later into the morning, so I apologize, Chris, for kind of making us hold off on this. But Nick Saban, like a lot of college football coaches, Texas. Chris went and saw Texas when they were in town. A lot of the football coaches on a bit of a town tour to drum up anticipation for the following season, and obviously it's great for recruiting. Well, Nick Saban was in a little town hall like scenario yesterday, where he went on a rant about the NIL. And I kind of come at it from an angle of, he's been at the top for so long that I think NIL's maybe in some ways making that playing field a little more even as far as what they can do for players. And then obviously other schools that don't have the funds, they're going to get left behind. So that mixed with Nick Saban just kind of being grumpy old man, he has been going off. And you mentioned Deion Sanders. Not only Deion Sanders, now a coach just as he is, but they've also been featured in those Aflac commercials together. So a co-star of his. And one of the coaches, only two coaches, Nick Saban's history that were former assistants have gone on to beat him as head coaches. One of them being Mr. Jimbo Fisher, who now is the head coach of Texas A&M. Well, Nick Saban just threw him all the way under the bus yesterday in a comment. We'll let you hear it from Nick Saban himself.
You read about them. You know who they are. I mean, we were second in recruiting last year. A&M was first. A&M bought every player on their team. Made a deal for name, image, and likeness. All right, we didn't buy one player. All right, but I don't know if we're going to be able to sustain that in the future because more and more people are doing it.
Listen, I can understand that A&M is a hard place to recruit to because there's not a whole lot going on. That maybe it would take some money. But to say that he bought every player, I just don't know about that. I don't know much about Jimbo Fisher, but I don't see him being that sleazy. I can see them maybe trying to twist some NIL rules to their advantage, but you can't tell me that Alabama hasn't done some things in the past to maybe get a player to come their way, especially last season. Nick Saban was very proud to say that QB Bryce Young had already received over hundreds of thousands of dollars in NIL deals. I don't think he just happened to get those for himself. Nick Saban went on to say that he thinks NIL can be great, but it should be done the right way with players managing their own money and getting their deals themselves. But I don't know, this argument that Nick Saban has, obviously they face Alabama. That's going to become a better and better rival, not to mention with Jimbo Fisher sitting at the top of that team. Chris, your take on Mr. Grumpy Old Man, Nick Saban.
I think Nick Saban is threatened by the NIL. He's they've been on top of the world. He figured it. He's great. Alabama, my God, you can't question what he's accomplished there, but it is a whole new world with the NIL. We've talked about it. It's the Wild West, and teams that can exploit it and use it to their benefit, like Texas A&M, are leveling the playing field. We didn't play the audio. He also, I mentioned, took a shot at Deion Sanders acquiring Travis Hunter at Jackson State and said something like, they offered $400,000 to Travis Hunter. I forgot what number Nick Saban used. And as you point out, their colleagues on those Aflac commercials, Deion in the middle of the night last night tweeted, I will respond to Nick Saban's lie in the morning. He said, somebody woke me up and told me about this. I will respond to Nick Saban's lie in the morning. I mean, this is getting very, very ugly.
Yeah.
And you mentioned A&M had the number one recruiting class last year. The team that beat Alabama in the national championship game, Georgia, had the number one recruiting class in 2018. So theoretically, A&M already beat Alabama this past season. When this number one recruiting class becomes juniors and seniors, Shannon, if history repeats itself, they'll beat Alabama for the national championship. So I think the dude is threatened by the NIL, and he is a grumpy old man, but he's seeing that he's losing his hold on college football as the king of the hill.
Well, and I think part of it, you mentioned Deion Sanders tweeting and Sark tweets, and we talked to Jeff Traylor, who is great at tweeting and using images and custom graphics. Nick Saban doesn't use email. He doesn't use Instagram. He doesn't use any of that stuff. So one, on that side of things, I don't think he gets it. And as far as how helpful those tools can be for kids in their NIL deals, because, during the season, they can't go make appearances. They can't go shoot commercials, but they can post a picture of themselves using a product or eating at a restaurant and post it to their socials and using it online. So when you have a coach that isn't, kind of also assisting and uplifting, I mean, think of how many Twitter followers Nick Saban will get, even if he wasn't the one tweeting them out to begin with.
Yes.
I think that would really help in the cause as the playing field is leveled for some of those bigger schools. Keeping in with Alabama for our final story today, as we know, Alabama's on the schedule for Texas. They will play at DKR on September 10th, and it was announced over the weekend that Fox would get that game. And although they didn't specifically say a time, most people are believing that it is going to be an 11 a.m. kickoff because Joel Klatt, one of the voices along with Gus Johnson of that big noon kickoff game, Eastern time, whatever, that he tweeted at someone who said, just tell us what time the game is. And he says, don't act like you don't already know. And he had another tweet where he said he was excited to get back to DKR. So there's now a petition going on, started by a Texas fan, for people to sign because they don't want it to be an 11 a.m. game. It's going to be 90 plus degrees, which means field temperatures will be in the triple digits. It's going to be way too hot for a lot of fans and players. They want to see this be a night game, and they know that Fox typically puts their big games at noon because they get the bigger numbers and they can't compete with ESPN or haven't bothered to compete with ESPN in that primetime game. But this petition kind of comes after Fox and saying, you're always going to be the little brother if you don't try. And this will be a great game to try on because you will get the views. So I don't know, Chris, if this petition will pick up any steam, if they have that ability to even move something into Saturday primetime slot on Fox. I don't know what would typically air there. But your thought on that kickoff time and a petition now to move it to an evening game.
I love the idea of the petition, and hopefully it gets some attention. I don't like an 11 a.m. game. I do believe more football is good football, but I got to get I'm not a morning person, even though we do a morning radio show. I'd rather see a game in the afternoon or at night in prime time. It's going to be interesting. I hope the petition makes some waves. I like the idea.
I'm excited for this matchup. We haven't heard a lot from Nick Saban in regards to Texas since that 2009 championship. So it'll be exciting to hear him start talking about him. And I don't know if he thinks Jimbo Fisher is playing for players. I wonder what he thinks Texas is doing. There it is, today's Salty Shakedown.
Outstanding Salty Shakedown as always, and a lot to digest there. And that Nick Saban story, Shannon, is blowing up. We might have to ask Don Harris about that. He's going to join us in a few moments. And tomorrow, Shannon, when you've got James Allen on the show as an Aggie, you got to ask him. I wonder, James Allen's kind of a big shot. I wonder if James Allen is giving a lot of those Aggie recruits cash.
Yeah, maybe he's the one
loaded.
shelling out all the cash. Maybe he's specifically who Saban is talking about.
Yeah, Saban, that might be a direct shot over the bow of James Allen. I do want to create some kind of, Dabo Sweeney can't take all the fire. I think James Allen needs to jump in front of the cannon there and start lobbing some grenades back at Mr. Nick Saban on this show tomorrow at 8:05. That should be fun.
Yeah, let's make waves.
Woo. Very, very cool. On this show this morning at 8:05, just after the sports update at the top of the hour, Don Harris, sports director at News 4 San Antonio. He's I want to get his thoughts as well on the cool Spike Lee Nike 50th anniversary commercial that Don posted. I saw that this morning on Don Harris's social media. We'll get into that. Andy Everett as well in the 8 o'clock hour. We'll do our PGA Championship draft. Will Jeremy draft Tiger Woods again? Didn't really work out for him in the Masters. Is he just locked into Tiger? We'll find out. Lots more coming. Don Harris is next. Thanks for hanging out with us. You're listening to the Chris Duel Show. Yeah, Tom, if you're, I totally forgot in the moment, Kevin Garnett, totally forgot that he, I watched it. When Tim was inducted, Kevin Garnett was in that class, so I totally forgot that when I said, maybe he's in the Naismith Memorial Basketball Hall of Fame. So sometimes the brain doesn't completely work early in the morning. Sometimes my brain doesn't completely work in the afternoon. Okay, I'm getting my Don Harris photo for there it is. All right. That is correct, John Williams. They were both number 21. Let's see. Where did I put that? There it is. Yes.
You've got bugs. What's your move? A rattly can? Or a simple spritz? Bugs for your kids and pets? Or like the ingredient you can't pronounce?
All right, here comes the Don Harris photo.
Your family. Zevo uses essential oils, which tag bugs' biological systems, so Zevo kills bugs, plus is safe for use around people and pets when used as directed. Zevo, people-friendly. Bug-deadly. Now at a store near you. Junk sleep got you down? The Sleep Back Quick and Mist certainly help. Get a kid bed for a clean price and save up to $500 off during the best Memorial Day sale ever. Plus, get a free adjustable base with qualifying purchase.
Okay, here it comes. There he is. Don Harris, ladies and gentlemen, joining us in just a few minutes. Okay, I have to edit 3 more spots. Paul Alexander will be in for me tomorrow and Monday. So that'll always be fun. Okay. So this was whoops. Copy. All new. And file. Okay. Yeah. Since. Okay, so Shannon just sent me the response from Deion Sanders this morning. Trust starts with self. It's extremely hard to trust someone when you don't trust yourself. What you're saying is, if you had the same opportunity, you would do wrong. Therefore, you must build trust in you and trust God. Then your trust of others would register stronger than ever. Coach Prime. That doesn't. Yeah, that's an odd. That's an odd one. Okay. Looking for some more fireworks from Dion this morning. I guess he didn't want to deliver. Dean, sorry about your tennis elbow. Louisa with an outside the box idea. Move Texas, Alabama to Sunday evening. I'm sure the NFL would hate that. Wow, look at that. Jason says, sounds like an Ambien tweet from Deion Sanders last night in the middle of the night. Yeah, when he called Nick Saban a liar, that was pretty big. Don Harris coming up. All right. Do I have time to email one of these? I might. See, this first one goes to. All right. Where do I find this? Uh-oh, Jeremy dialing Don Harris back. Might have missed him on the first run. Might have gone to voicemail. Yeah, he's talking. We may have him, or he's leaving him a message. Here we go. Woo! Woo! Great. Thank you.
This is the Chris Duel Show. Duel.
Welcome in on a throwback Thursday. It's the Chris Duel Show with Shannon Salty Sweeney. And we are fortunate to have one of our favorites on board. He's on the phone, and we will dive right in with him. He is the sports director at News 4 San Antonio, the pride of Churchill High School and North Texas. He is Mr. Don Harris. Don, how are you this morning?
I'm doing great, brother. How are you, Chris?
I am doing well. I woke up, I jump on Facebook, and you posted, I had not seen it yet, the Nike 50th anniversary video, which was about 4.5 minutes long, directed by Spike Lee. He reprises his Mars Blackman character, showing great iconic athletes from the past and the present. It was pretty cool. What'd you think of the Nike commercial?
I thought it was really good. Like you, I noticed it was really long. It was like during the first break in the Warriors game last night, and I was like, man, how long is this? I think it was 2:39 or something like that. But Nike spent a lot of money on it. I love the ode to the Iceman in it. It was quick, but they got it in.
Any athletes there, Don, that you wish they would have shown or mentioned that you felt deserved so?
Well, you know it's a Nike ad, so you know it's going to be all of their people. So I think they did an excellent job with Spike Lee revisiting the Nike campaigns all the way from, I think, 50 years ago. It started with Steve Prefontaine, who, of course, was one of the original Oregon guys that Bill Bowerman coached. And, of course, Bill Bowerman was famous for, along with Phil Knight and those guys back in the days, creating the Nike waffle trainer with their own personal home iron and some rubber and creating the first running shoes. So they went from Steve Prefontaine all the way to this modern era of some up-and-comers that I haven't even heard of yet. So I think it was pretty complete.
Yeah, and the little moment where they pay homage to Kobe Bryant and look up to the sky, yeah, that was just cool and very, yeah, very, very, very moving. And Don, it reminds me, so it's the 50th anniversary of Nike, and we saw the Spurs roll out their 50th anniversary logo just last week. And I was talking about this earlier, Don, and you go way back to the Hemisphere Arena with the Spurs as well. I sure hope that two things they do, the Spurs, this coming year. Number one, let's have a reunion of the original San Antonio Spurs who are alive, including Kobe Dietrich, James Silas, George Karl, of course, the Iceman, George Gervin. And then how about a reunion of the 1999 team that won its first NBA championship? I would love to see all of those guys on the court at the same time. And maybe even, the way when they put somebody up in the rafters after the game, they talk on the microphone. I just think that would be so cool for the Spurs to do for their 50th anniversary.
Those are two great ideas. Maybe they can do it all on the night where they retire Larry Keenan's jersey.
Oh, you, sir, and kudos to you. You have done this on Don's Extra Point multiple times. If there is ever a Spur who belongs up in the rafters, it's number 35, Larry Keenan.
The Spurs asked me to come down and do a series of interviews. We talked for about 3 hours over the 50 years of the Spurs. Great old stories going back from Rebecca Combs and Angela Drosas trying to get them here all the way to modern times and some of the iconic and some of the most memorable moments in Spurs history. I don't know if they liked it that I went off on that tangent again, but, I'll say it again. Larry Keenan is the 6th or 7th best Spur of all time. There's 12 jerseys up there. He is deserving. I know he was here a short time, but that makes his accomplishments even more impressive, the fact that he's still in the top 10 in so many categories. And I think other than, Tim and Dave and Ice, he's the only Spur to start in an all-star game that he's completely forgotten about. And I think it's time, as I've said before, it's never too late to do the right thing. And Larry Keenan is deserving. And I want to say this, Chris. I know you have me on to talk about this stuff, but I want to talk about the article that I read in the paper yesterday about you, man. And I just want to say that is way overdue. And thank Richard Marini of the Express News of spotlighting
you who are, you're a ray of sunshine in an AM radio world that is often, AM radio lends itself to politics and negativity and anger and hate. And you're always an encourager. You're always uplifting, not just on the radio, but you send notes to people all the time. There's never a bit of negativity. I know that you get a lot of your spirituality from just encouraging people and seeing the best in things. And I think that was, some recognition that you deserved. And I just want to publicly applaud you for always staying positive.
First of all, thank you, Don, and you're too kind, and I'm embarrassed, and but you, seriously, no, but I am. But one of the reasons, I love what you do on television, and I think I mentioned it to you yesterday because you sent me a message. No, I'm serious though, dude. You tell stories, and you think of sports, and most people go, oh, numbers, statistics, final scores. You and back when David Chancellor worked with you, and I know you were a mentor to him, you tell stories that matter. And you just talked about Larry Keenan, but you tell stories, and you work with the Miracle League. You tell stories about athletes on all levels of sports that are human interest, inspirational stories. So everything you just said, you do it on television every single night. So I'm humbled. I appreciate your kind words. I'm embarrassed to hear it on the radio, but thank you, Shannon. Your next question for Mr. Don Harris.
Yeah, Don, I'm a Mavericks fan, and Chris here, obviously a huge Spur fan, but he has his allegiance to Texas, so he's able to put his Spurs fandom aside a little bit for the remainder of the playoffs and cheer on the Mavericks. So I was wondering how you felt about Spurs fans rooting for or against the Mavericks in these finals.
I think everybody should root for whoever they like, whoever they want to like. It's like I wouldn't say it's a Texas thing or a Mavericks thing. I find myself, and I don't ever really go into a series like thinking I'm going to root for this team or this team. I try to stay objective, but I do sometimes find myself pulling. I remember during the Celtics Lakers of the 80s, for some reason, I always pulled for Magic over Bird. I don't know why. I just did. And for some reason, I think it's because I think it is related to the Spurs. I think Tim and Tony and Manu in 2013 and 14, after having come back for those years where they didn't do much, and trying to show that the old guys still have it, I find myself rooting for Steph and Clay and Draymond. Not that I ever really liked those guys, but I just think it's like, okay, the old guys are trying to stick around one more time and show these guys something, and it's kind of refreshing. It's kind of like Tom Brady grew on me over the years. I did not like Tom Brady with the Deflategate and all that kind of stuff. And then the further he goes on, I find myself kind of pulling for him when he was with the Bucks. So I find myself kind of rooting for the Warriors in this thing. I don't know why, but I think everybody, for whatever reasons, they like a certain player, or they like a certain team, or they're rooting because it was their family. Just go with your heart, man. Whatever you're pulling for, it's cool with me.
Very, very cool. And it's always cool to hear, Spurs fans when the Spurs are no longer in it to win it in the playoffs. It's interesting to see who Spurs fans pull for. Finally, Don, I know you're up against it here. You got to be somewhere, but a little preview, the Sports Sunday this weekend and all the other sports programming you're involved with. What do you got on the agenda?
Dude, I stayed up till 2:30 last night watching Facing Nolan. Documentary on Nolan Ryan.
Oh,
I'm telling you, it's gonna be in theaters in San Antonio one night only next Tuesday, and I thought it would be a somewhat decent homage to Nolan Ryan. It is brilliant. I cried at least 2 or 3 times during it.
Wow.
It has been executive producer from his son Reed Ryan. Reed's going to be in studio on Sports Sunday to talk about the film. The film deals with Nolan from birth to now, Alvin, Texas, the New York Mets, the Astros, the Rangers, the iconic moments, interviews with Pete Rose and Dave Winfield and John Blake from the Rangers and all of the stats that he did, and George Brett and others that had to face Nolan Ryan. And it's his life story. And there's a lot in there about Nolan Ryan that I didn't know about him being a cattle rancher and his love for cattle as a kid. And the trials and tribulations of baseball, how he almost quit. But when you revisit his numbers, oh my goodness, the 5,000 strikeouts and the 383 strikeouts in 1 year, it's great interviews, a lot of laughs, a lot of tears, stuff raising his children. It's a brilliant film. So we're having a Reed Ryan in studio on Sports Sunday. We'll deal with all the NBA playoffs. We'll talk about who the Spurs are going to pick at number 9. Cowboys get back at it in their mini camp, so it'll be chock full.
Sunday night, right after News 4 San Antonio, Sports Sunday. Watch it live. If you can't watch it live, if you're like me, you got to wake up the next morning. Do what I do, DVR Sports Sunday with Don Harris. Don, great stuff, sir. Thanks for taking the time, and we'll be watching Sports Sunday on Sunday night.
All right, man. Thanks for having me. Take care.
Very, very cool. Don Harris. Loved his crowd goes wild. Loved his Larry Keenan statement, Shannon. And I know, Larry Keenan was way before yours and Jeremy's time. But I mean, he is a guy who was just phenomenal. I've always believed, like Don, that number 35, Larry Keenan, belongs in the Spurs rafters with his jersey retired. And Larry Keenan lives in San Antonio. And to be, and I talked to Kobe Dietrich about this, who was an original San Antonio Spur. A lot of the Spurs were told, because they wanted Gervin to win scoring championships. This was before the Spurs started winning actual championships or going deep in the playoffs. So the coach, whether it was Bob Bass or whoever back in the day, would say, hey, man, we want Gervin to get his. We want Gervin to get. So Kobe Dietrich told me pretty much every other player scored about 5 less points per game. They gave up the ball to Gervin so Gervin could be successful. And we love George Gervin, and he deserves all the accolades he gets. But for a guy like Larry Keenan, who was involved in that and still put up big numbers for the Spurs in his time here, and now he lives in this community, and he has seen every one of those banners go up in the Spurs rafters, and his name is not there. I hope, and Don has a loud voice in this city, and he's very, very well respected. I just hope that the San Antonio Spurs, whom I love, are listening to Don Harris, because he's right. Larry Keenan belongs in the rafters with his jersey retired with all those other greats. Start
the petition.
Yeah.
Get it going.
Yeah. Don has been banging that drum for many, many years, and he continues to do so. And as we're all getting older, there's fewer and fewer people who saw Larry Keenan play. That's why Don Harris needs to be successful in this crusade to get Larry Keenan into the rafters. So we've got 2 more talkbacks. Jeremy, are any of these about me, like Wes's? Because I think we've kind of overdone that.
No, more of that.
Come on.
You want me to give you the real answer?
People are gonna, if they are, and I hope not, because James Allen's one of these. We'll see hopefully James Allen is going after Nick Saban in one of these. I know one of these is from James Allen. We'll just play them, but after, in fact, there's so I'm just gonna, Shannon, I'm not coming back tomorrow. That's just it. It's just too much.
You shouldn't.
Too much ridiculous love today. And
you should go to a different city entirely to get away from it.
Good idea. I am leaving San Antonio tomorrow, and I won't be back till sometime next week.
Yeah, just drown it all out with, I don't know, a really great band like the Eagles or something.
That would be a great idea.
Drown out the noise.
That would be a great idea. Before we play the first talkback, I'm seeing Julio Reyes on our live video feed, and Julio goes way back and knows his Spurs, says agree with the Larry Keenan induction and jersey retirement. So we're starting to put together a coalition here. David Valles is saying the same thing on our live video feed. David says he was able to watch Larry Keenan's entire career, and he believes that Larry Keenan should be up in the rafters at the AT&T Center. All right, 2 more. Is this James Allen? Which one are we playing first? This is he'll be on the show tomorrow at 8:05. This is our good friend, Texas Aggie alum, James Allen of the Pro Football Hall of Fame. His talkback, here it is.
James Allen of the Pro Football Hall of Fame. A big Hall of Fame shout out to Chris Duel and an amazing article in the Express News. Mr. Personality, Mr. Positivity, Hall of Fame broadcaster. Shout out to you and Shannon, Jeremy. Y'all gonna have a great day.
Thank you, James Allen and Shannon and Jeremy. I don't want to sound unappreciative. It's very nice of him and Don Harris and Wes and you, Shannon and Jeremy, yesterday to say nice things, but it's a little much. It's like
It's the birthday thing, isn't it?
Well, I know. Well,
you're
exactly.
being sung happy
Yeah.
birthday right now over and over again. And
It's like I hate it. When I'm at a restaurant, my family and my wife know you do not bring people over to sing happy birthday. Just don't do it. Thank you, James Allen. I do appreciate the kind words, but I'm not worthy, and B, it's a bit much. And there's a lot of dirt on me that Rich Marini left out of that. He could have really. He's an investigative.
Could have
journalist.
ended you.
Yeah, there's a lot of skeletons in my closets, people. One more talk back. Here it is. And by the way, if you're new to the show, you go to the free iHeartRadio app. There's a microphone button. You press that button. You leave a message. You send it. We get it. And we play it on the air. And here is another talkback that we received this morning.
Good morning, everyone. Shout out to Chris Duel. And stop ragging on my Yankees. Yankees, Yankees, Yankees. Let's see, 17 seconds left. Yankees, Yankees, Yankees. Go Yankees. 10 seconds. Yankees, Yankees, Yankees. Thank you. Have a great day, everyone.
Jesse Bratton. See, that's more like it. See, you can take issue with us. And yes, I do rag on the Yankees because, and again, like the Golden State Warriors, and God bless Don Harris, Shannon, he's kind of pulling for the Warriors now. And the Yankees just decade after decade after decade of success and in your face and outspending everybody in the big market. And they got more money to spend than anybody and the pinstripes. And I've seen that movie too many times.
Well, that story specifically, how can you not rag on him?
Yes. True.
Come on.
Thank you.
Stealing from your teammates and then stealing from your fans all at the same time.
Jake Sanford was his name.
He's meant for the front office is what he's meant for.
Yes, he is.
That's where he should go. That's why they fired. They don't want him playing AAA anymore. They're moving him to New York to sit in that front office.
Yeah, and again, if you heard that in the Salty Shakedown, dude was a minor leaguer in the Yankee organization, hounding fellow teammates for equipment. He would then sell the equipment online. He would get money from fans, and then he would ghost them and not give them the equipment they paid for. So he was a thief and an idiot, thinking that he could get away with this, and people wouldn't report it and make noise about it. So yeah. And of course, David Munoz, who also sometimes hosts the golf show for Andy Everett. He's a big Yankees fan. And did somebody tell me, Jeremy KOLOK, I think David Munoz told me, Andy Everett is a Yankees fan. Did I hear that? Do you know anything about that?
Oh, that is news to me.
All right, we're going to ask him.
Yeah, he doesn't exactly broadcast that around these parts very often.
Ask him the hard Mike Wallace out of the gate 60 minutes question when he joins us next. It's bad enough he's an Oklahoma Sooner. You know, we go out of our way to forgive that.
Yeah.
You're an Oklahoma Sooner and a Yankees fan, Andy? Really? We're going to find that out. And coming up, I better do some quick research. Our PGA Championship draft is seconds away as well. So Andy's going to join us, our PGA Championship draft, and we get to the bottom of this. Is Andy Everett, who lives in Texas, for God's sake, and should be an Astros and or a Rangers fan, and is from Oklahoma. So why be a Yankee? And again, I don't know this. I got that secondhand. We'll ask him directly. He can refute that before America. Andy Everett joins us next. PGA Championship draft. Shannon Salty Sweeney continuing to decimate and humiliate the three of us because she always wins these things. That's coming next. Don't go anywhere. We're with you till 9 on the Chris Duel Show. All right. Let's see. I got to email one more thing. Louisa, you are very kind. It's a lot of kindness. It's kind of embarrassing. And there's certain people out there, and probably a lot of people, don't want to tune in You know, and it for some people it seems self-serving. Walter, we got to get you back on the show, man. Walter Pasacreta, Andy is a fake Yankees fan. He doesn't know when or who they are playing. All right, Wally. I'm going to read that to Andy. And Wally, we need to get you back on the show. Ideally, I am out tomorrow and Monday. I'm going to Austin to see the Eagles, not the Philadelphia Eagles, to see Darryl Hall and Todd Rundgren. But so next, maybe Tuesday, Walter. I'm back Tuesday. If you're available, I want to get you back on. But I will read your disparaging comment to Andy Everett. Okay, let me see here. I got to email one more. See, this goes to. All right, let's see. Attach these. In studio. I didn't know that. Welcome. Say again? Oh, my goodness. That's crazy. That is cool. Yeah, I'm going to. First, I think David Munoz told me in the hallway that you're a Yankees fan and Walter Pasacreta. So I talked about that going into the last break to give you to find out for sure on the air. Walter Pasacreta writes, Andy is a fake Yankees fan. He doesn't know when or who they are playing. So Walter giving you some crap.
Well, I'll explain my Yankee fan.
All right.
When you bring me on.
Okay. We'll have to do it pretty quick because we got to do this draft. But anyway, I just thought that was funny.
John Bailey is 2 under par. I don't even know he can walk around the golf course for 4 days.
Wow.
Yeah. his body's in worse shape than Tiger's in. And this is self-inflicted. He didn't have a car wreck that I'm aware of.
A little higher.
I think Peter Burns is part of the ESPN Plus coverage of the PGA.
No kidding. That's
I think
amazing.
he does it from his office in his house in Charlotte.
Yeah.
remotely.
Right.
He has
Yeah.
all these monitors and stuff. I
That's
don't think he's
fun.
at Southern Hills, but because he did it last year at Kiowa,
Okay.
and I heard him. I saw him put on Facebook that he was going to do it again this year.
You should get him on the golf show with you.
He would wake up that early on a Saturday
Yeah.
morning since he has to get up early every other day.
Yeah. Walter said, Andy, Tiger was in a car wreck and Daly is a car wreck. That's a good line from Wally. So I won't belabor the Yankee thing, but we'll just do that out of the gate.
Real quick,
Okay.
What my fandom is for the Yankees.
Okay.
It'll take me a minute or less.
Let's see. Cool, Walter. Let's do Tuesday in that case. Let's see, I got to make sure I got your microphone up. That's it.
Yeah, it has to, all those buttons up there have to be
Yeah.
pushed, I think.
Yeah, I've occasionally found that out the hard way when I start a show and I'm not on. When somebody comes in here and messes with them. Here we come.
All right.
Okay. Mics are look correct. Shannon's back.
Back to the Chris Duel Show with Shannon Salty Sweeney.
Welcome back in the Chris Duel Show with Shannon, Salty, Sweeney, and special in studio guest. I didn't know he'd be in studio, but this is even better. Andy
I show
Everett.
up every now and then.
Yeah. Host of the golf show and the voice of UTSA athletics. In a moment, we will do our PGA championship draft. And Andy already has some Tiger Woods updates from the PGA tournament that he'll give us in a moment. But Andy, first, the biggest story, David Munoz, who fills in for you as host of the golf show sometimes, told me in the hallway he's always bragging on his New York Yankees to me. And he goes, well, there's two Yankee fans in the building. I go, who's the other one? He goes, Andy Everett. I'm, what? Mr. Oklahoma Sooner, Andy Everett is not an Astros fan, but a Yankees fan. What is that all about?
Well, here's how this works. I've had three favorite baseball teams in my life, but I like baseball, the sport in general. And I have the Major League Baseball at Bat app, And I usually listen to the Yankees, which I'll explain in a minute, but I listen to a lot of different games because that's what I'd rather listen to on the radio than pretty much anything else between April and October. I was a Reds fan when I was really young because my aunt was, because of Johnny Bench. In about 1977, I started listening to Cardinal games on the radio and the great Jack Buck for 25 years. And Jack Buck made me a Cardinals fan. And back about 2010, when Walter first started doing the morning show with me, I would play highlights of John Sterling calling Yankee games, mainly just to get Walter mad and angry and upset that the Yankees won, or, one of John Sterling's, corny calls. And about that same time, I got XM so I could listen to baseball games. And then I got the app whenever it came back out. And John Sterling is basically made me a Yankees fan. Before that, I was pretty much indifferent to the Yankees.
Okay.
But I told him this. I met John Sterling a few years ago at an Astros game. And I said, the mark of a great announcer to me, or one of them, is to make you care about a team that you may not have ever cared about. And just because I would listen to him one night, that became 2 and 5, and I probably listened to 100+ games a year, and I enjoy listening to him call a game. Therefore, there's my Yankee fandom. But I don't lose sleep if any. Really, pretty much my favorite teams are UTSA, OU football, and Tiger. Beyond that, I really don't lose any sleep if somebody wins or loses. But I do like watch and listen to a lot of Yankee games because of John Sterling.
All right, nice of you when you listed them to list UTSA first before OU.
Well, they
football.
are, because I want UTSA to beat OU if they play right now.
And again, and we got to get moving on this PGA championship draft. But how do you think UTSA is going to play at Texas this September when they face each other?
They're going to beat them.
Yes.
Like I told you last week, my only fear is that they switch coaches after the game.
That was a tremendous line.
And I'm joking about that, but I do know that. I think any player, any coach, any member of an organization, it's the Tiger Woods theory. Why play if you don't think you can win? Now, the odds are that you're not, and Texas has the greatest athletes you can get right now, except for the ones that were bought by Texas A&M, according to Nick Saban. But I think that, there's always that major upset every now and then. There's the App State beating Michigan a few years ago, and that probably was 20 years ago, but it seems it's happened. So when it happens, it's a big time news. So it's something that stays with you for a long time. And, I don't think a lot of people thought UTSA was going to do what they did last year. So, but more importantly, we're violating a culture pillar because that's game 3 and the focus has to be on Houston right now.
Cannot violate a culture pillar, or Coach Jeff Traylor he'll
make you run laps and work out with Ryan Philo at 5 a.m.
There you go. Before we dive into this draft, you walked into the studio with Tiger Woods news already on the course in Tulsa.
Yeah, he birdied the 10th hole, which is starting hole of the day, par number 11, and they're getting ready to play the par 4 12th, which a lot of people, and I've been to Southern Hills a couple times. I got to play the course when I was in high school. I was a freshman in high school, so that was 40 years ago. I don't remember a lot of the round. I do know I shot 99. And at that time in my golf career, breaking 100 was a good thing. I was just learning how to play, but I shot 44 on the front. I was like, oh my goodness, I'm gonna, and then I violated a culture pillar and shot 55 on the back. That's that golf. The 12th hole is probably one of the greatest par 4s ever invented, and that's what hole they're on right now.
Okay, Shannon, Salty, Sweeney, we got to get cooking here on this draft. You have determined our. Randomly online, you determined our draft order. What do we got?
Jeremy, followed by Andy, myself, and then Chris picks up the back end once again.
All right, let's get this.
Happening.
Thank you very, very much.
Go, Jeremy.
Let's we'll do this quick, and with the remaining time, we'll talk about the PGA Championship. Jeremy KOLOK. So we're drafting 4 players each. Is that right, Shannon?
Yes, sir.
4 players. Okay. Jeremy KOLOK, who you got in round 1?
First pick, what an honor. I would like Scotty Scheffler.
Oh, that's a hard one to do.
Didn't you go with Tiger in round 1 last year?
Yeah, he did. We'll see. And then Andy give us that little Tiger update right now, and I was on the fence. Right, it is early.
Number 2, I'm picking Spieth.
Who?
Spieth.
Oh, Spieth.
The Grand Slam. We have another Grand Slam winner if he wins.
I see. I thought you said I'm picking Steve, and I'm like, Spieth? No, Spieth. That's Jordan. Yeah, thank you very much. Shannon Salty
off the board.
Woo! Yeah, that was quick. And probably Shannon, you both of you.
I just busted her
jumped in-
bracket.
Yeah. And by the way, Shannon is our defending champion. So Shannon, your first pick becomes even more exciting. Who are you going to
Right.
pick?
I'm going with an old favorite of mine, John Rahm.
John, man, you like your John Rahm. Okay, let's see. I got my cheat sheet here. I am going to go with Shane Lowry.
That's a good pick. And then
Thank
you get
you.
to pick again.
My second pick is Brooks Koepka.
Okay.
What takes us to Shannon?
I'm going to go with Colin Morikawa.
Now it's me.
Yes, sir.
Hideki Matsuyama.
Wow.
Oh, that was my pick. So now I'm going Tiger.
You Tiger in the second round. All right, Jeremy gets Tiger. So that takes us to third round of 4. So Jeremy, you go again.
Now I would like Rory this weekend.
There you go. I'm going to go off the board here a little bit. Max Homa.
Max Homa, 55-1. I've got that in front of me right now. Max Homa. What can you tell us about Max Homa?
He just won
I don't
2
know
weeks
him.
ago at the Wells Fargo.
Wow.
And he's also he's played a lot of really good golf the last couple of years.
Very, very good. Shannon, Salty, Sweeney, who you got?
I'm going to go Cameron Smith.
That's good. He's playing well.
Okay, to keep this going, I'm going to go Dustin Johnson. And it rotates, so I go again into round number 4. And according to my cheat sheet, Jason Day at 70-1.
Should bet on that one.
Yeah, right. All right.
I think I'm going to take JT here and go with Justin Thomas as my final
I'm
pick.
surprised he lasted that long because
Yeah.
he played well last week at the Byron Nelson.
All right, Andy, your final pick.
I was going to take JT, so now I've got to think about this for a second here. Let's go with. Here's another one that's kind of off the board, but playing good golf. Will Zalatoris.
What can you tell me about Will Zalatoris? He's not a household
he was
name.
in the contention at the U.S. Open last year. He's won one event. I think he won at Torrey Pines last year, or this year, and I think he's another up and coming player. Hits it miles, and if he putts well, he should be there.
Final pick of the draft goes to Jeremy KOLOK. Jeremy, who you got?
My very distinguished final pick. I would like Taylor Gooch this year.
There you go.
Taylor Gooch?
Yep.
Mr. Irrelevant is Taylor Gooch. Okay, I know, Andy. I know nothing about Taylor Gooch. Help me out on
another
Taylor
up and
Gooch.
coming player looking to break into stardom. He's a good player. He's kind of journeyman pro for the last 4 years, maybe I think on the tour, maybe 3. But he's a good player. At least these guys are all good. This is if one of these guys like Max Homa or Taylor Gooch wins. This is not like Duke getting upset by St. Francis. These guys can all play, and the difference between 1 and 300 is usually how well you putt that day.
All right. For casual fans like me who will be tuning in to see Tiger Woods, you just talked about how he's performing early in this first round. What do you think will be different in Tiger Woods' performance from the Masters to this tournament? Of course, we all remember Masters. He had a great first round, and it seemed like each successive round he had more difficulty. We all assume he was, taxed physically more so each day. What is your expectation for Tiger Woods?
Well, Augusta is one of the hardest golf courses on the planet to walk. The PGA Championship at Southern Hills will be 50% easier. I don't know a lot about Brookline because they haven't been there in forever, where they're going to play the U.S. Open. And St. Andrews is the easiest walk in the history of golf. It's not even 4.5 miles around the golf course, and every tee and green is within 15 yards of each other. So when he goes to Scotland in a couple months, that will be the easiest walk. So I don't think the taxing on his ankle and lower leg will be nearly as strong as it was at Augusta. And most of the reports coming out of Tulsa this week are he looks stronger. He's walking up and down hills better. And since the Masters, he's apparently only taking 1 day off from doing rehab or treatment or weight training or whatever he's been doing. He took, I don't know what day it was, but he said, I've had 1 day off since the Masters in preparation for the PGA. He's won there before in 2007. And that was kind of, I think if you go back and look at the highlights, when Tiger fist pumps after making a birdie and kind of backs off the back of the green, it's one of the highlights we see a lot when we talk about PGA championships. He kind of winced. And there's a lot of people that believe that was the beginning of his ACL injury that ended up the next year when he won with a broken leg and a torn ACL. But he'll never tell us that he hurt it or if he even felt anything that day except to win. But I think he'll be in contention. It'd be great to see him win, and I would love for Jeremy to win, and he gets number 16.
Shannon, you've been very, very successful in these PGA drafts. We all expect Andy to win these things, but you seem to keep winning. How do you do it, and how confident are you now that you know who your golfers are?
Ignorance is bliss, Chris. That's how I managed to continue my role here. And for those that have already forgotten our picks, they are available now via the Twitterverse. So go check those out. Yeah, I think we picked a good group today. Y'all threw in some names that I wasn't expecting to get drafted.
Well, here's a name you shouldn't expect. John Daly is actually 2 under par through 7 holes.
Wow. I should have picked John Daly just for fun.
I don't think John Daly can finish 72, maybe not even 36. And I don't expect John Daly, because you can't ride in this tournament. When he plays on the Champions Tour, he gets a cart. There are no carts in this event, no matter how badly you're not feeling. So John Daly has the lead right now with IE Yang.
I'm surprised he's even
champion
there
as well.
Yeah, Walter Pasacreta wrote.
And Zalatoris just went to 2 under, so I like that pick even better now.
There you go. Walter Pasacreta wrote, Andy, Tiger Woods was in a car wreck, and John Daly is a car wreck.
John Daly's whole life is a car wreck.
That's mean.
Yeah.
Well, it's self-induced, and he even would admit that it is, and he would even admit that he could have done things differently and been a better player. Because John Daly's got a ton of talent. But the golf swing he has is totally related on or totally about timing. And when he doesn't have timing, he goes out and shoots 85. And when he has his timing down, because of how big and out of sync it is at times, that's when he shoots. He can shoot really low or really high.
I got to get a quick thought from you. You mentioned it, Nick Saban and his volatile comments overnight. Shannon told us about them in the Salty Shakedown. He accuses Texas A&M of buying all their players. What do you think? Is he in fear of NIL? Is he scared that his reign may be over because of NIL?
I think every coach is concerned about NIL. And we had a speaking engagement with Jeff Traylor a few weeks ago, and I think Jeff's been on record as saying this publicly everywhere, that the problem with NIL is I don't care about players being taken care of. I want them to earn it. And when you see guys getting $1 million deals and they've never stepped foot on a football field, and I've said this many times, my biggest problem with Quinn Ewers is he likes money more than he likes the game. And at the end of the day, and the reason I say that is because nobody that loves the game would skip their senior year of high school. The athletes I've been around over the years, the worst thing in the world is when they have to miss a game for injury or a death in the family. That game is sacred. And those 12 to 15, 16 games that Quinn Ewers could have played should be sacred. And if his dad's got enough, whatever it is, to let him do this NIL deal that Ohio State originally did, he's got enough money to go buy a Lloyd's of London insurance policy against future injury. And a $2 million insurance policy is probably going to cost 15, 16 grand. I'm sure that's worth it. But it's not worth giving up your senior year, because I want players that love the game. And there's a lot, and I'm not saying that players that are choosing between Alabama and Texas A&M and LSU and OU and Texas are going to say they don't love the game. They're going to go to the highest bidder. I don't like this idea that we're going to eliminate the scholarship limits. If we do this, you're going to have about 20 schools that play for the championship every year and about 110 that are in another league, because they're not going to be able to compete. Mississippi State can't compete with Alabama or A&M or Texas or OU. The pockets are too deep. So I think Nick Saban is right. I think every school is buying players. If Texas A&M bought them all, good for Texas A&M. That's the rules now. There are no rules. It's the Wild West. And until the NCAA gets rid of its structure and hires a commissioner that can have enough juice to go out there to all these conferences and say, guys, we got to rein this in. Here's the rules. Go to court and sue us if you want, but all you're doing is killing college football if you do. And I know that, coaches get paid millions and schools make millions and TV's paying millions. And I think athletes deserve a share of that millions. But I hate it when players don't earn it. And you can say, well, coaches didn't earn their big salary. Well, nobody gave them that salary unless they did something on the lower level first. And that to me is where we're at with NIL. We got to kind of get some police force in there on this.
He is Andy Everett. He is the host of the golf show, which will be big this Saturday, 8 o'clock on Ticket 760.
Girls golf team won state. So we're going to talk about that with their coach too.
That is cool. Kudos to the Reagan girls golf team. Andy Everett and the golf show, 8 o'clock Saturday morning. A lot of coverage on the PGA Championship as well. If you're outside San Antonio, you can listen to that on the free iHeart Radio app. For Shannon Salty Sweeney and Jeremy KOLOK, who chose Tiger Woods in his draft. Our big thanks to Don Harris of News 4 San Antonio. Have yourself a great Thursday. On this show tomorrow, James Allen of Texas A&M. Maybe he'll have some thoughts for Nick Saban on the show tomorrow. Have yourself a great Thursday. Adios, amigos. Thanks, everybody. Luisa, Jason, Frank, Walter Pasacreta. Walter, next Tuesday, we'll get you on the show, man. Joe Ochoa. Anybody still with us? Thanks. Adios.